Emma. It is almost November, and we know that I am super excited for November because I love Nonfiction November. There will be a lot of nonfiction content on this channel during that month, I'm sure, but Rick McDonnell also pointed out that it is Novella November, and as we all know, I love novellas. I love short books. If a book can't say what it needs to say in under 300 pages, what even is the point? I think short books are wonderful to read, and I like that there's a whole readathon revolved around short books. I definitely plan to read a lot of nonfiction in November, but I'm also hoping to read some novellas in November as well. I went through my TBR shelf and some recently acquired books, and I pulled all the novellas that I have on my shelf. I'm not necessarily going to read all of these. This is not a TBR. But I wanted to just highlight some of the novellas that I have. Maybe you have them too. Maybe some of these are the books that you're planning to read for Novella November. And if so, definitely let us know in the comments below. Some of them I have plans to read. Some of them I don't. I am currently reading a novella. I am reading The Red Pony by John Steinbeck. That was the second book that I got on BookTube Spin 4. It is very short. It's only like 98 pages. It's one of his classics, and it's about a young man who gets a pony and has to learn the responsibility of taking care of an animal. This book also has another novella by John Steinbeck in it, which is The Pearl. That one is only 82 pages long. The Pearl is kind of based on a Mexican folktale about a pearl and how it affects people's lives. Since we started with a modern classic, let's go the kind of classic and modern classic route. And let's talk next about Ethan Frome by Edith Wharton. Now, I've never read this short classic novel. I honestly have no idea what it's about, but I recently found it in a little free library, and it's only 77 pages long. Another classic that I'm interested to read is Hermann Hesse Killmonger's Last Summer. I've heard that this is autofiction or semi-autobiographical, and I have only ever read one Hermann Hesse book before, which was Siddhartha, but I've read that multiple times and I love that book, so I'm eager to read another of Hesse's work. This book comes in at 150 pages. Robert Heinlein is a classic sci-fi author, and I recently read his book Starship Troopers. It's the first book that I've read by Heinlein, but I have two more, and both of them would work for Novella November. The first is The Day After Tomorrow. This book has red sprayed edges. Love it. I believe it's about a climate disaster, but maybe it's aliens. I know that this was made into a movie, I believe maybe in the early 2000s, and this book comes in at 144 pages. The other Heinlein book I have is The Green Hills of Earth. This definitely is, I think, more sci-fi and less disaster book than The Day After Tomorrow. This one, again, I don't know what it's about. It has some men in spacesuits on the cover. This book comes in at 176 pages. I don't know what the actual definition of a novella is, how long it has to be, but Rick McDonnell kind of put it in that 175 page range. So I've tried to keep all the books that I picked right around 175 pages or less. So 176, I think, still counts. A noir classic author that I've read before is Jim Thompson. I have never read this book, After Dark, My Sweet, but I imagine that it's going to have all those noir thriller vibes that the other books I've read by him have. This book is 133 pages long. In the beginning of the year, I attempted to read an Anthony Burgess novel, A Clockwork Orange. I didn't make it through that one, but when I saw this Beard's Roman Women, a novel by Anthony Burgess in a free little library, I picked it up. I did enjoy the evocative nature of his writing, the part that I did read. I definitely want to read more of Burgess's work, and I would like to finish A Clockwork Orange as well. This book is 155 pages long. I've had this copy of The Cat from Outer Space for a really long time. I believe it is probably a young adult or new adult sci-fi novel. It was written in 1978. There was also a movie made of this that I've never seen, but come on, The Cat from Outer Space, how can I resist? And it comes in at 166 pages. We all know that I love P.G. Wodehouse. I've never read Meet Mr. Mulliner, which is in a different series than the Jeeves and Wooster series. I've actually never read any P.G. Wodehouse that wasn't Jeeves and Wooster, but I'm sure I'll like this one too, and I'm sure it's got all of the comedic elements that P.G. Wodehouse is known for. This book is 170 pages long. I do have some plans to read The Son of Fletch by Gregory MacDonald, but this is one I won't be reading in Novella November because I am reading all the Fletch series books in order. This book is later in the series, and it is a flash forward, I think, to a time in Fletch's future where someone seeks him out saying that they're his son. This book is also 170 pages long. I also have plans to read Heather, the Totality by Matthew Weiner. This book is going to be in a try-a chapter. I picked it up in a little free library because I thought the cover was really cool and because it's extremely short, but I want to try a chapter of it and see if I'm actually interested in reading it. I think it's about obsessive parents, which isn't really my style, but could be amazing. And it's 138 pages. A Walker in the City by Alfred Kazin. This, again, I think is autofiction or semi-autobiographical about the author, and it's about walking around in the cities, specifically in Brooklyn. Any book about walking I'm interested in, and any book about Brooklyn I'm interested in. It might be a good one for me to read during Novella November, and it is 176 pages long. Woman at Point Zero seems like a really tough read. It is, again, semi-autobiographical about a woman who has been imprisoned in Egypt, which sounds a little heavy for me. I will have to see if I'll be in the right headspace to read this book this year, but I am really interested in reading more from an Egyptian author and interested in hearing her story. This book is 108 pages long. I haven't heard of anyone who's read Julie Otsuka's Buddha in the Attic. I really loved the cover. I picked this up at a book sale over the summer. It's a multi-generational story of Japanese women. It's only 129 pages long. The River Between by Nungi wa Thiongo is a story of African culture that is fighting to keep its traditions in a time when Christianity is threatening to infiltrate the native ideals. It's set in Kenya. After reading Out of Africa, I would love to read some Own Voices African stories. This book is 152 pages long. A indie book that I found in a little free library is Lee Strauss's Murder on the SS Rosa. This is a cozy mystery set in the 1920s, and the main character has a French bulldog, so come on, I definitely want to read this one. It's 162 pages. Quicksand by Nella Larson. I got this recently in one of my favorite used bookstores in New Jersey. After reading Passing by Nella Larson earlier this year, I'm definitely interested in reading more Nella Larson. Passing was such an amazing book, and I think Quicksand follows some of the same themes of colorism and of Black women in the early 1900s and during the Harlem Renaissance being able to pass for white or dealing with colorism in their own communities. I'm super excited to get to this one, and it's only 136 pages long. At one of our favorite rummage sales, the V&A rummage sale in Far Hills, New Jersey, I picked up this copy of Wide Sargasso C by Jean Reyes. Now, I've heard so much about this book, and people really, really love it. I know that it's a continuation slash retelling slash different perspective telling of maybe Pride and Prejudice. So I know it's a reinvention, but I'm not sure which classic it's reinventing. I have just heard wonderful things about the writing too, though, and I think although I'm sure this book is more appreciated by those who know the original story, I think I can still really enjoy this one. I also really liked the cover, and this book is only 171 pages. So those are all the novellas that fit under the November novella criteria that I have on my TBR shelf. Will I be getting to all of them in November? Definitely not. But I do hope to read a few, like maybe 3 or 4 at least, while I'm also working my way through a bunch of nonfiction for Nonfiction November. What readathon are you participating in November? I know there are a lot of good ones. Indigithon is also in November. Are you reading for Novella November, Nonfiction November, Indigithon? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!